What is something you know because of your profession, which you believe everyone should know to make their lives better, easier, or healthier? If you pay attention to your kids, they'll do better. The fricked up crap you're doing, it is affecting them even if you don't realize it. Their teacher knows this. I work at an interstate mountain tunnel in VA. Please, for the love of God, don't stop to take pictures. Yes, it is cool, but stopping like that has caused more accidents than anyone would believe. I work in theatrical lighting. It's pricier, but gaff tape is far superior to duct tape. Tears better, sticks better, looks better, doesn't leave that nasty residue when you peel it off something. You can write on it in Sharpie, so it's great for labeling. We use it to label lights, secure cables, basically anything you might need tape for. If you're running cable across the ground, use gaff tape to keep it in place. It's not waterproof, but other than that it's the perfect tape. I love it. Gaff tape is an absolute must own. Labels, repairs, heck, I've even used it to make a strapless bra once cause it leaves no residue and doesn't peel off when it gets wet. Get a third party to do inspections on homes or rentals before you move instead of who the retail agent or landlord will provide. That third party inspector will be more honest about things that are faulty in the home rather than one that's contracted with the agency. Also, pay attention to services your town will provide and what community projects they are personally engaged in funding. This will affect your property taxes if you buy a home. Certainly sound advice before buying a home. But I don't see why you'd go through the hassle and expense for a rental. A renter isn't normally liable for the kinds of stuff that you hire an inspector to find. What is under your house counts. Before buying a home, talk to the city about the sewers and water drainage. Very old systems are sometimes still in use, and if the sewers haven't been upgraded in 100 years, you could have a very unpleasant surprise just down the road. The 3 most important things you can do to keep yourself safe during a house fire are super simple and very effective. 1. Have working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in your home. Also make sure that when you buy a smoke detector, it is a dual sensor type. Detectors can be ionization, which are good at detecting quick, flaming fires, photoelectric, which are good at detecting smoldering fires, or be a combination of both. Dual sensor detectors are slightly more expensive but much more effective than a singular ionization or photoelectric detector. Make sure that smoke detectors are installed as high as possible in every bedroom and hallway. Carbon monoxide detectors should be installed with at least one on every level of the home. In addition, you should have a fire extinguisher easily accessible in the home. Even if you put the fire out, still contact the fire department so we can ensure it hasn't extended into the walls or ceiling. 2. Close every door you can when you're asleep or not at home. Even a thin wooden door can greatly slow down smoke and fire spread. One thing that was driven into my head in the fire academy was smoke is fuel. All it takes is the right mixture of oxygen and hydrocarbons to create fire. If you have a fire in your home and you cannot put it out yourself, safely, that is, make sure you close as many doors behind you as possible while exiting the home. Teach children to shut their bedroom door if they cannot exit the house and to not hide under their bed or in their closet. They should try to stay in the open so it's easier for us to find them. Also teach them to make as much noise as possible. 3. Have a plan. Make sure you know where to meet family or other occupants of the home in the event of a fire. Talk to your kids about safe places to meet and make sure they know your home address to tell to the dispatcher. Have numbers available for your insurance and any family or friends you may have to stay with. Life insurance applications are starting to use accelerated underwriting, which means they obtain your credit history, pharmacy records, education level, and other personal information to see if you qualify for the life insurance. Life insurance companies are starting to also use a network which link the findings, so if you get denied by one company and try to get insurance with another, the second company can obtain certain assessment results from the first company. This sounds like a gross violation of HIPAA. Be a strong advocate for your health. Don't be afraid to talk with your doctor when you notice something that feels wrong to you. And don't be afraid to keep bugging people if you feel you aren't being heard. The medical field is full of people and people make mistakes. Also for women, especially those over 40. Never skip a year for breast cancer screening, and if you have new symptoms, have it done again. Early detection really is a lifesaver. Yup, my wife's cancer was only diagnosed by the 6th doctor she consulted about her pain. She's now fine, and it's been 6 years. This would not be the case had she stopped at 1 or 2 doctors. Americans, if you need help navigating a complicated government problem, call your representative at the local, state, or federal level. There are staff members standing by whose purpose is to perform constituent services. Many people think that their elected officials just sit up in the Capitol and don't realize they have capital and district staff whose whole purpose is to help people navigate through government problems. When I turned 18, I received a letter from the Social Security Administration that told me I owed $52,000 to Social Security because they had determined that my father was not disabled for the last 2 years of his life and they had overpaid him. He spent the last 2 years of his life in the hospital and about 6 months in a coma, and he was apparently not disabled. I spent months trying to solve the problem on my own and was simply jerked around and treated like a criminal by Social Security. Finally, I got the idea to call my congressman and ask for help. Within a few weeks, I ended up getting an apology letter from the Social Security Administration saying they were wrong and I shouldn't have to pay for their mistake. That letter is in my baby book now. So much of this, don't be scared to call them or think it is also corrupt. Hellscape staffers do their jobs because they genuinely want to help people in their community. This drive to help is stronger the lower you go on the government ladder. I'm a civil engineer and I think everyone should know that yellow light time is dictated by the speed limit. For example, if the speed limit is 40 miles per hour, you have 4 seconds of yellow light time. You have 1 second of yellow light time for every 10 miles per hour. If the speed limit is 35 miles per hour, you have 3.5 seconds. Most lawsuits are total bulls and settle out of court. If you're sued, the worst thing you should do is ignore it. Try to hire a lawyer. If you can't afford one, file a pro se answer and reach out to the lawyers to discuss resolution. Most lawyers are very friendly and honestly want to resolve matters for their clients. A phone call and a polite conversation can go a long way toward resolving a suit. I work at a corporate call center for an MLM. Don't sign up for any of those companies. Thanks for the first silver, fellow R&M, I presume. Corporate call center. Dang, that sucks. For an MLM. Frick, dude. I work in IT and I can honestly say that by rebooting your device you will fix most of the software related faults that happen. If that doesn't work, then googling the symptoms will more than likely give you a fix or avenue for a fix pretty quickly. I work in the radio industry. Well, study to work in radio. You know those request shows? Yeah, those aren't real. They pick 1-2 requests per hour and then just fill the rest in themselves. None of the War of the Roses or any other BS like that is real either. They're all paid actors. Since Janet Jackson's Super Bowl wardrobe malfunction, the FCC cracked down hard on radio TV. No radio show can call someone and put them on the air without their permission. Period. Trucker here. I know we're bigger, bulkier, and slower than you guys in your cars. We don't want to be. We take longer and more room to make turns. We are also subjected to a fuck ton more rules than you guys are, even in our own personal vehicles. Just give some space. We'll be out of your hair quickly enough, and we can both get back to our respective business. I work in cancer research and I have to say, regular people shouldn't give money to charities that fund research for cancer or heart disease or whatever else. There's millions and millions of dollars being constantly funneled into every avenue looking for cures to these things. Pharmaceutical companies really don't need the assist, especially considering they are a business trying to make a profit on this stuff. I'm all for philanthropy and charity, and if you want to donate I would strongly suggest finding a smaller non-profit. Perhaps one that helps with early screening or getting people to hospitals or helping disadvantaged people with health problems pay their bills. But don't throw money at a huge hospital or billion-dollar health non-profit. It just won't go nearly as far as it could otherwise. To add on, if you really want to donate to cancer research, look at donating directly to university cancer research centers. Nearly 100% of that money will be directly spent on research rather than going to administrative costs with those large organizations. I'm not a teacher anymore, but I learned a lot from it. I wish every parent knew that as your child grows up, you need to be their parent, not their friend. They need to experience failures and consequences. They need to be held accountable by you for their actions. You can be friends with them when they are grown, well-adjusted, responsible adults. As a former child, I completely agree with this. I work in auto body collision repair. I am here to tell you that the size of a vehicle is only one piece of the puzzle in determining safety. Obviously, if you get hit by a semi, you are screwed no matter what sized vehicle you are in. But I have seen a Honda Civic hatchback get creamed by a Suburban. Honda was stopped at a stop sign. Suburban rear-ended them going 60 mph. And the people in the hatchback walked out basically unharmed. This is only one example off the top of my head. Vehicles built after 0608 started implementing advanced materials to be used for points of impact rails body pillars. These advanced materials, think high-grade hardened steel, are extremely durable and do what they are supposed to do in terms of protecting the passengers from immediate harm. Also, a misconception about larger vehicles being safer is people think big equals safe. But these larger vehicles are slower, less agile, and have a longer stopping distance. If you are an attentive driver, you can more easily evade bad situations in a smaller, more agile vehicle. That is, if you have a decent reaction time and don't drive distracted. Short stopping distance has been a lifesaver for me a few times in my lightweight, compact car. I have avoided multiple potential collisions with wildlife, dogs, surprise road blockages, and unruly drivers. And don't forget that the taller a vehicle is, the more likely it is to tip over. I just want to let you know you have options, and if you need a larger vehicle for space, I totally understand. But larger vehicles are not safer as a rule of thumb. A $70 Ozone machine will permanently get rid of most smells in your home with just an hour of use. Pet, smoke, mold and other smells will be completely removed. However, ozone is toxic to living things, so it cannot be used with people or pets present. Ozone does however have a relatively short half-life, and return of normal use to the room can begin as soon as an hour after the machine has turned off. Hotels often use ozone machines to remove smoke smells when someone smokes in a room. They often have large industrial size machines that only need to run for 15 minutes or so. The room will be fresh smelling and ready for the next guest with less than an hour turnaround time. Your belly button needs to be part of your cleansing routine in the shower. I'm an RN and have recently begun work in the OR. Anytime we have a patient getting incisions on their abdomen, we prep the belly button separately from the rest of the skin. And what I have learned from this is that a shocking amount of people have filthy belly buttons. I'm not talking a bit of lint. I'm talking a mound of lint that takes 4 swabs to remove. Rolls of dead skin so copious that I have to use gauze to get it out. Actual stones, pebbles of hardened detritus that I have to use tweezers to pick out. And this isn't on crazy obese people with a massive self-care deficit either. A good chunk of people with nasty navels are young and normal weight with 2 functioning arms. Clean your belly button. It's why God gave you fingers. I get a really weird sensation in my body when I put my finger in my belly button. It is kind of uncomfortable. If an electrical line falls onto your car, stay in it. If you can't stay in it, jump out. Do not step out, then don't walk or run away. Shuffle your feet. Just exercise, people. There is not a single medicine, cool clothing item, quick fix, whatever, that will give you a healthier and better life than exercise, except for circumstances where you need a medicine to live. Even 20 minutes of walking a day can have profound effects on your health. It's not hard, just exercise. I'd argue that sleep is on the same level of importance. Sleeping enough and in a regular manner will do wonders for your health in terms of reduced stress and better mental health. I write smut for a living, and when people find out about it, they're generally very keen to open up about their own sexual tastes. It's as though as soon as they realize they're probably not going to be judged for what they want, they're eager to talk about it with an actual human person. I constantly get asked how unusual certain fetishes are, and people always seem relieved when it turns out that what they think is a super shameful kink they have is actually pretty widespread, even if people keep it on the down low. In general, most people's kinks aren't all that weird. Occasionally they are really freaking weird. Even if it's really freaking weird, as long as no one's getting hurt it's probably okay. And there's probably someone out there who has it too. Can't wait to reveal I'm now writing smut in my free time. I'm employed in routine environmental chemistry microbiology testing. Most household cleaners are composed of bleach, vinegar, or hydrogen peroxide, with a bunch of fillers thrown in. It's quite a bit cheaper to just have the base ingredient on hand. Also, baking soda is a great scouring agent and stain lifter. A lot of troubleshooting can be done by either reading the manual or googling. If someone is telling you some routine process isn't working, there's a good chance they aren't following directions accurately or haven't given you the correct information. There are best practices for lots of processes in your life, and while there may not always be a direct explanation for why it works, there will be loads of anecdotal data pointing to what doesn't work. Just because somebody doesn't think it's logical for A to cause B doesn't mean that it is impossible. Lots of junior scientists fall into this gap. Just because you are unable to detect the difference, postulate a testable theory between two practices does not mean there is no difference in the effect between those two practices. Don't frick with a closing elevator door. Don't even hold them open for others unless you're using the door open button. I had my mechanic put an elevator on independent mode, and he was facing me while pushing the floor button. Some lady sticks her whole arm inside to stop the door, and if I hadn't seen it she would have been pulled up and lost her arm. On independent mode the electric eye is overridden and won't reopen. Also, elevators won't fall downwards. It would be an uncomfortable ride to the top floor. It's highly unlikely that would happen, but it's possible. I work in anatomical transplantation. Lungs of marijuana smokers and lungs of cigarette smokers look exactly the same. People who deny the fact that smoking weed isn't as detrimental to your lungs as smoking cigarettes are kidding themselves. If you ingest smoke, your lungs are going to suffer long-term damage. Plain and simple. Credit analyst here. Few pointers for people. USA. Debts fall off your credit reports after 7 years. Pay off your debt. It does in fact increase your credit score. Keep your overall credit card usage under 35% at all times. If you do have debt, do not be afraid to negotiate the total debt amount. They will almost always take 50% of the total debt if you have it in full and it's been transferred to a third-party collection company. Nobody in the credit world gives a crap about bad medical debts or student loan debts when judging for creditworthiness. Everyone in USA has them. Oldest trade line and 100% on-time payments are the two biggest things that define your credit score. If you're just starting to build credit, secured cards are the best way to do so. Usually minimum $200 down and they use that as your credit limit. Just use it for gas, then pay it off immediately to keep it from closing due to inactivity, and it will do the rest for your credit. If you study languages and want to improve your listening skills, you should practice with different varieties of a language, because listening to a harder accent, for example, Scottish English, will make you understand easier accents, for example, Standard American better. Works as a graphic designer. We can do magic with the trusty Photoshop, but that doesn't mean we can do it in 1 second. Also, advertising is basically doublespeak and rephrasing words to stretch the truth to sell. So be discerning about shiny graphics. Read the small print and labels. People are usually nice to you if you are nice to them. If they are rude, I'm extra nice, smiling and polite. It really makes them crazy annoyed. Seeing them boil really makes me happy. But also, if random person is rude to me, I don't take it personally. The person doesn't know me and probably has had a bad day, weak life, and is only taking it on me. But also sometimes when I'm smiling, nice and polite, it makes the other person start smiling and have a better mood. That makes me happy too. Edit. Thank you, kind stranger, for the platinum. I didn't expect it at all. One of my biggest life revelations was realizing that almost everyone who's in butthole is either having a bad day or hates their life. I'm a therapist. My two would have to be: you cannot hold other people to the same standard you hold yourself. People can't read your mind, talk, and listen when people talk to you. Funeral director embalmer here. If you have an older or sick relative, try taking a peek at the sorts of things you'll need to do if they pass away. Certain states have different regulations, but most areas of the US are relatively standard. Also, try and see what sort of things are involved with the type of disposition you're looking for. Many families are blindsided by having to purchase an outer burial container in addition to a casket for burial. For example, having some form of plan and or prep done while your loved one is still alive can drastically help with the process that happens afterwards. If you need help, you can always call your local funeral home to ask questions. Their phone lines are almost always open 24/7, but you should stick to calling within business hours for any non-urgent matters. Planning ahead can save your loved ones some guilt too. It sounds crazy, but when my dad passed unexpectedly, my mom didn't want to spare any expenses, like buying a cheaper casket, vault, and headstone would somehow mean she loved him less. She wanted him to have the best she could afford to do so, but if you're in a position where you can't, I can see how it could be a stressor. Be conscious about how you hold your phone. Many young people are showing up to hand therapy with complaints about joint pain in fingers and thumb. Hand health is so important, especially because later in life there are even more debilitating factors like arthritis or trigger finger, etc. Don't buy a house within 3 blocks of S-rail line, gas station or industrial facility. Chronic exposure to low levels of industrial airborne pollutants causes cancer. I recruit as part of my job. If you are actively looking for a job, answer your goddamn phone when it rings, or you can call back, text back, or respond to the email in complete sentences. I don't care which communication method you use. Also, who the heck are you is a terrible thing to text after I have called. Listen to the voicemail, and you will know who the heck it is. It's so frustrating when people call back to a business without checking their voicemails. The voicemail will hold all the information you'd need to make the decision to call back or not. If you have problems with a computer, please reboot before asking for help. And don't lie about rebooting. It completely confuses the text to the point where, even if you say you rebooted, I won't believe you and I will do it again. Pain in my butt. Bonus for your information, that I can see how long your system has been up, and when it was last booted, with a simple command. Linux, uptime, Windows, system info. Psychologist. If you ignore your needs and feelings long enough, they will take over without your permission. Spelling. Dang, just come straight for my throat like that. If you are building, altering, extending your home, go to a professional designer and ask them to design and advise on how to coordinate the work. It will save you much of the hassle, cost and the issues you would have by trying to manage things you don't have experience with by yourself. I am now in the process of qualifying as an architect, and I wish I was at this point of my life when my parents were building our house 15 years ago. It would have been so much easier for them. I currently work at a potato warehouse in Idaho. When you buy the Idaho brand of instant mashed potatoes, all of the potato flakes are just our old bad out of grade potatoes that they bake and turn into the flakes. Also the same way with Lay's potato chips. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.